home like that. So we need to establish this is not possible, and leaders who go to war and make mistakes like that cannot be allowed to continue to be public figures. The banana philosophy suggests that all commercial activity, financial, industrial, scientific activities should not be used to enhance the capacity for warfare. So scientists who are doing research, let's have them doing research in better quality housing, or better food, more nutritious, less chemicals in our fish and our meat. Whatever, there's so many things that are important. Let's not have a scientific endeavor producing better weapons or more horrible weapons or weapons that will hurt you and me and everybody else terribly. That's not progress. We also must have national leaders who work within international law. There is a concept called the ICC. It's the International Criminal Court. And that was set up deliberately, particularly to have leaders of the world who make these difficult decisions and sometimes go to war, in what I would call an aggressive war or a war of opportunity, which is not absolutely necessary, but it's good for empire, for prestige, for whatever ambition one state or another has to dominate a neighbor or perhaps half the world or perhaps the whole world. We can't allow that. So the International Criminal Court was set up to have such people tried and prosecuted internationally. And that needs to be reinforced. Right now it doesn't work very well. And some member states, particularly the most violent and powerful ones, have not endorsed it because, of course, they're afraid of it. Now, I referred to the UN Charter. Please go to your library, and if there aren't copies there, I will send you 100 copies from New York myself, but you need to look at it and think about it, and it's heavy, it's legal, but in there is most of the things that count to you and me, and it's good to know what it's all about. People who go to Parliament, legislators, people who are in Congress in New York, Washington, people in London, people here in Kuala Lumpur, we want people who make laws, who are members of Parliament, who represent you and your family and your part of this country, to think differently. We don't want them to think of using warfare or violence or threats of violence as a means to change in the neighborhood or of this part of the world. That's simply not, as I said so many times, I guess, appropriate. We need people in the civil service, international and national, who think along the same lines and who can find solutions to problems through dialogue, through understanding each other, through tolerance, through accepting that one country needs something different from another. There's always a compromise. There's always a way to do business and to live together and make things work. It's not rocket science. The media. Now, I said already, look at the internet, get your news, see what's going on in the world, and say to yourself, thank God I'm in Malaysia, because this is a good place to be and a good place to grow up and be something that's going to make a difference. Whether you're going to be a teacher or you're going to be a scientist, whatever. But you need to remember that it's not happening everywhere, and there are so many young people like you who don't have these opportunities. So look at the media, grab a newspaper, try to look at one perhaps every day, or certainly go online and look at the news every day. Maybe it's the BBC, maybe it's Al Jazeera, whatever suits you. Remember that they have a view and you have a view, and you're independent and you have to make up your own mind. You don't allow anybody to make your mind up for you. But the media, unfortunately, has a history of making warfare seem exciting, dramatic, glorious. We talk about heroes. We talk about success and taking out this and taking out that and destroying this. And, maybe it's exciting, maybe it looks exciting. If you think about it, when we take out a building in Baghdad, people were living in that building. People lost their lives. Children lost their lives. People were maimed. Maybe they lost a leg or an arm or their eyesight. You don't want that for you or your family or your friends. None of us want it for other people. And if we don't change things and we don't look at media differently and try to get media to change the way they look at the world and how they endorse war as a legitimate way to change the world when we don't like what we see, that's really something that's not acceptable. But you need to make up your own mind and think for yourselves. And lastly, I think what's important is we need religious leaders, and political leaders, but I'm thinking of religious leaders right now, to be absolutely clear that they do not approve of warfare in any shape or form. If we have religious leaders who stand up in the mosque, in the church, in the temple, wherever or whatever it may happen to be, they need to lead by showing by example and by word that warfare for them is also unacceptable and it doesn't produce the results that we want to see around the world for ourselves and for other people. And leadership, political leadership, or religious leadership is terribly important, because we all tend to, I hope we all tend to look up and respect people who take on those difficult jobs of leadership at different levels. So I think I've really covered too much, and I'm sure you're getting restless and you're just dying to get to class. And I wouldn't want to keep you back from important things like that. But I've tried to cover as much as I could without boring you silly, and I know some of you are a little restless, and I understand that, believe me. I've been where you are, though I used to wear a black blazer, not a nice striped green one. But I just want to reiterate again that life around the world is not as good as it is here in Malaysia for so many people. Young people like you around the world don't have the opportunities you have. And we need to change that, and you need to change that. And as young people, you know, you are the future. I mean, people like me who are old jossers, old fools, you may be thinking right now, who should shut up and go home, we have not done very well. We're leaving you with a horrible mess. And it's not just warfare, of course. You probably, like me, you probably know better than I do about climate change and some of the catastrophes that we seem to be creating for ourselves in the world today. And that's another area of huge importance. So if we can resolve issues of warfare and learn to live with each other and respect each other, if we can learn to use the natural resources that has been given to us in the world and use sustainable development, sustainable life. And just last night, coming in from the airport, the driver in the taxi pulled over and filled up with gas, natural gas. Well, that's a move in the right direction. But so I think you here in Malaysia, you may be ahead of many other countries. But it's a need to look differently at how we're dealing with each other and the world we live upon. And you know, the Native Americans and other people like the Aborigines in Australia, for example, who of course we Christian Europeans destroyed, I'm sorry to say. They were the sort of people who lived with the world and nurtured the world and understood that keeping the world alive and well and healthy was their obligation. That leaving a world behind that would work for their children was their obligation. They didn't destroy things, they didn't exploit it, they didn't hurt the surface nor the depths of the world. They protected their water supplies, and they made life viable because they did no damage. Well, somehow we've lost track, perhaps, and we need to do much better. And I'm going to leave it to you to do much better, because you are the future. You already have a huge advantage by growing up and living in this wonderful country of yours. Don't blow it. Some of us, we blew it. I mean, my generation have not done well. It's up to you. Thank you very much.